right, I have good news and I have bad news. What would you like first?
Bad news.
Bad news, want to get the bad news out of the way? Okay, here it is, bad news. Nothing lasts forever. The good news, nothing lasts forever. Chew on that a little bit. Think about that. I mean, I love that. I love that. So, actually, Mary sent me a reel earlier this week, and I'm not even sure if she knew. I mean, I decided what I was going to talk about a few weeks ago. It came to me. But she sent this reel to me, and it's a monologue, so I'm going to kind of give you a synopsis of it. But it was so impactful, I'm like, okay, I got to fit that in. And this gentleman kind of explained how much of our efforts that we put into having a house and a car and, you know, a degree and all the things that we accumulate and we have. And let's be honest, in the reality of it, in 100 years, nobody in this room, or even the people that we know, are even going to be around anymore. All of our personal possessions will be used by somebody else or in the dump. Our car probably will for sure, because God only knows what they're going to have in 100 years. You know, they might be flying around on their own, but anyway. And then, of course, our houses. They'll either be bulldozed or somebody else will be living in them, whatever it is. And what I want to do, the takeaway and the perspective of this, is hopefully to give us a freedom. Because if something's not dire emergency that's going to affect you in 5 or 10 years, then what are you giving it time right now for? Okay? Because when we tie ourselves up with attachments, and please, I'm not saying enjoy, have luxury houses, anything you want, but how are you doing it? Are we attached to those things? Because when we're really attached to them, I think it takes up time and effort that we could be seizing the day, seizing the moment more right here, right now. Because in all reality, that's all we have. That's all we know for sure. So we're going to kind of explore a few things that maybe hold us back in that, and some ways that we can, you know, do better about seizing that, or seizing the day. But I want to start off by saying that, I don't know if you guys know it, but Carpe Diem, seize the day, is not the complete quote. And I found that fascinating. I actually just discovered that not that long ago. So it's a Roman poet, Horace, that came up with Carpe Diem, quam minimum credula postura. I will only do that once. Anyway, the seize the day, of course, is, or the Carpe Diem is seize the day. That second half is trust as little as possible in the next. Now think about that for a minute, because there's so much of our efforts. It's our choice. Where do we put our focus? How many times and how much time do we put into the past of what's happened, and, you know, feeling stuck and even controlled by the past sometimes. And then, you know, we can always put ourselves into the future where we're fretting and worrying, because we know worrying works, right? Because the 90% of the things that you worried about never even happened, so worry works. So where do you want to be? Right? How about in the now, right here? Pluck the fruit in its prime. That's what seize the day. And the thing of it is all those things are wonderful, but how do we really have an impact that we want? Because life is actually waiting for us to change. It's waiting excitedly for us to figure this out. That this is actually about elevating our energy, shifting the vibration and the frequency of things like our mindset, our character, our personalities, our habits, any of those things that we may have picked up along the way. Because when you choose to operate from that place of peace and joy and love and happiness, because those are vibrationally vibrant energy, frequency things, they will actually last. They will actually ripple out in ways that you never imagined. So even in 100 years, if somebody doesn't know my name, you never know when something I did today might have affected somebody that did something else, that did something else. that did something else. So in 100 years, your vibration, frequency, and energy is still going to be going. That's where it's at. And in all honesty, I really believe that there's two things that drive the human race. Lots of things branch off of it. But the need and desire to love and to be loved. This is significant. The other thing is we want to know we make a difference. You can't help it. You want to know that you had a purpose and maybe left something behind. And, you know, I'm not sure my house is going to be the top thing on the market. But again, I hope it's the energy that I have left behind that does. So we're all alive, I hope, right? We all got up and we're here, so that's proof, right? So just because you're alive doesn't mean you're living. Ask yourself that. Give a little bit of thought to, are you living? Because oftentimes we become what we needed to become to survive. The system itself can be difficult and challenging, whether it's school, whether it's, you know, any kind of an educational system, religious, even the dysfunction of the families we all come from. Anybody come out of their childhood unscathed? Exactly. Some of us better than others. But there's always something going on, that there's suffering, there's loss, and there's even abuse and things. And this actually causes us sometimes to have maladaptive behaviors that helped us survive. They served us during a time, but as we grow, it doesn't. And that's what we want to move into a different place of growth. Because I think that this is an interesting concept, and this is something I've kind of read about as well as drawn from my clientele. We almost get a certain sort of false sense of safety and security, believe it or not, from our past. It's an illusion, though. Because we've maneuvered it and we feel like we kind of controlled some of it, that it gives us the feeling to where we sometimes cling to the suffering because it's familiar. And there's science to this too, okay? And I mean, this is all over the place, from quantum physics to Joe Dispenza and everybody in between, that talks about the nervous system. However the nervous system continues to fire, it creates pathways. And the thing of it is the beauty of that is through repetition and exposure, it created those pathways, but we are given the ability and the power to change those pathways. So there's a science to this too, but we have to be willing to let go of whatever it is that's holding us back. Fear of some sort. Fear of being different, fear of not being liked, fear of, you know, people not liking the way you think, and I can tell you it's going to happen. I'm the black sheep of the family because I stood up and said, anybody else seeing this dysfunction? Is it just me? Either way, I don't want to play that game anymore. I don't want to participate in that. And that's threatening and scary because that sometimes brings light to other things. So accept the fact that even though change can be a good thing, there can still be elements of fear, the unknown, the new things that are uncomfortable. And sometimes we focus on what we think we have to lose rather than what we have to gain. But let me tell you, there's no better time. Now is the time. Now is the time to know your greatness, to know how awesome you are, to own it and to live it, to understand that you are the container of the most sacred energy there is, the divine. Isn't that cool? You walk around every day with that in you, around you, and through you. You are operating from that. And anything and everything that has ever happened to you has led you to this point, to lead you to this understanding of how truly great you are. And it's time to embrace it and be okay with change and growth. And even though there can be some growing pains with growth, it's still better to face that fear and move forward, to change those pathways within our nervous system, to work on our mindsets, our personality, our characteristics, and our habits. And it doesn't have to be as hard as what people think. I think people think it has to be something really big, but that's not necessarily the truth. It can actually be something very small, like smile. Every time you get ready to pick up the phone, smile. Because believe it or not, people will feel it. Now when I have to call the phone company, it's really hard to make myself smile. But some of these, automated things, it's tough. But yes, smile, play, have fun. Tiny habits. It doesn't have to be a big thing. These little things throughout the day that we can start putting our focus on to shifting ourselves in that energy and vibration. And the thing that I love about tiny habits, as well as just in general, celebrate stuff. I mean, my friend finished paying off her school loan. Let's go out to dinner, and you don't have a loan payment, so you can pay. Let's do it. Let's celebrate. This is it. The other day, I just was in this real blah place, so I slid my little walking pad out 2 miles later, watching some mind-numbing TV. I felt so much better because I had moved the energy, just got it out. So do things, whatever it takes, to remind yourself of how awesome you are. Tell yourself that every day, how you're deserving and how you're lovable and how you're capable and how you deserve. This is the way that we attract it. Gratitude. We talk about gratitude all the time and we still can't talk about it enough. Okay? And we talk about, Abraham Hicks has those really fun little tirades where she talks about be thankful for your bed, your sheets, your pillow, your pillowcase, the shower, the coffee with the tea, whatever it is. That's exactly it. Be grateful for the small and the little things. You can be, believe it or not, and I think people think you can't be both ways, but you can be happy for the rain and you can be happy for the sun. You can be happy for the cold. You can be grateful for the heat. Find a way to put yourself in that place. This is a tough one. How about we normalize waking up in a good mood? Give yourself the time and the space. Set it up the night before in your mind, but then the next morning, give yourself the time and the space to center yourself, be at peace. Don't hit the to-do list just yet. Try to stay in that to where you set this home for the day. I read this thing the other day. Anthony Hopkins said that he said, at 87, I am very aware of my mortality. But he said, I still wake up with a desire to misbehave every day. So what is your misbehave? Is it eating the cake or the steak? Is it taking a walk? Is it stopping and sitting? I'm one of these people, oh God, I'm trying, that, my goal is to go to the other end of the house in the laundry room to get the clothes I want to wear that day. And I've got to do 12 things on the way there. And then I have to do 8 on the way back. I'm trying really hard to slow down, be in the moment. It's fun to sit and listen and wait for my kettle to warm up. And all the little funny noises that it makes as I get ready to drink my tea and I spend that moment, that mindful moment, in that peaceful place. So what is your misbehave? Take a nap, take a break, leave work early. What is your misbehave? But that's your homework, misbehave. Find a way to wake up wanting to do something that is for you, that is to take care of yourself, and to give you in that place of seizing the day and seizing the moment. And even a bad day can still be approached and faced with a good attitude. And that's the Abraham Hicks thing about reaching for the higher feeling thoughts. Because if you're busy reaching for a higher thought, you're also not picking up on the negative and attracting it. It's going to attract more of the positive. The mind is an incredibly powerful thing, and it's this amazing tool that we have, but it's what are we filling it with, and how are we feeling about what we fill it with? I challenge you to try to fill it with as many people, places, and things that bring you joy, to bring you peace, to bring you happiness, and just sit back and watch the change and the outcomes that'll come in your life. Enjoy it. With the idea of the mind, there was 2 things I wanted to think of, or have you aware of, and that's conscious and unconscious thought. Unconscious thought is kind of those random thoughts that just float around and bounce in and out of our head. They can be triggered by TV, something you read, you know, person, place, or thing, whatever it is. Sometimes they're useful, sometimes they are like, where did that come from? You know, and it's really about how we react to it, because we don't really have a lot of control sometimes about what floods us, okay? It's what do we do with it? But conscious thought is what I want to focus on, and because conscious thought is actually from the divine. It is our connection with God, love, light. It is our way, and that's the thing to cultivate within yourself, to where that is always there, because that is a total game changer. When you are actually able to self-realize your greatness, that's when you're at the best service and the best gift that you can be for the world, is just being you and allowing that. And I think sometimes we think it's like, gotta be strenuous, a lot of work. And in the beginning, it might be a little bit to change a few habits and to do something different, but really it's awareness. Because once you realize that everything is spiritual, it's so much easier to just be you and be yourself without the worry of what other people think, feel, or what anybody's gonna care in 100 years, you know? I hope that gives you a sense of freedom to do that. So, focus on how you feel, the peace, the joy, the love, and I'll let the universe do the rest. So in my life, I've had a few things happen that have been, you know, turmoil, yeah. I'm gonna write a book someday, and nobody's gonna believe it was all one person. It really was. So, I have done a lot of growing and healing, and I'm grateful for it. And then I realized that I've got a little boy, now a big boy, that has been watching me do that. And it's interesting to see that ripple out. So we're in a store the other day, and we're walking down the long aisle, and we're coming across this lady with 4 kids. One's in the seat, and one's hanging on each side of the cart. It's mass chaos, people. They're crabby, they're cranky, they're demanding, they're complaining, the whole thing, and God bless her, she looked pretty haggard, like she'd had a tough day. And we get closer, and Elijah makes eye contact with her, and he said, she had like some purple hair, and he said, that is an awesome color, and you are rocking it. So some of the tension and some of the glazed look kind of lessened, and she said, thank you. But 3 aisles down, he looked at me and he said, Mom, I had to come up with something because she needed it. I mean, seriously? Do you see the ripple effect? You know, I mean, you're going to pick up stuff even today. Roger, you're going to pick up some good stuff that you're going to be able to go home and be a more patient, loving husband. I know you already are, but you'd be more. And with your clients, you're going to be able to do the same. And the same thing for all of you. You're picking up this vibration, energy, and frequency that not only do you get to wallow and enjoy in it, but you get to pass it on just by being you. So seize the day. That's what Elijah did. He just lets the moment happen, lets the universe bring it to him, but he's in the moment, so he seizes it. That's it. That's what it's about. Have your nice house and your car and all that kind of good stuff, but seize the moment of joy, peace, love, and happiness. So love, in my total belief, is the vibration of God, of the divine. It is the strongest, best connector. What are we doing with it? How are we letting ourselves be this vessel that it flows through? So, Elijah and I, being homeschooled, we would drive a lot of different places for different classes and stuff, and we always had a lot of fun games that we played, and he was very imaginative. This I Spy, I realized one day after I finally guessed the rings on Saturn. I'm like, okay. Now, it does make sense because earlier that week we had discussed the rings of Saturn are made of ice, which was very fun and interesting. But he caused me to expand the way that I looked at things and thought about things. And we did not limit ourselves to 20 questions, let me tell you, there was no way. But there was another game that we played, and it was superpower. If you could have a superpower, any superpower. But he always had fun because he always put limitations on me, and you can't do it this, and you can't do it that, you can only use it once, or whatever. But you know what? You all have a superpower. We all have a superpower. The superpower you have, no matter what's going on in your world, or in the world out there, you have the ability to choose peace and joy and love and happiness and act from that. That's a pretty good superpower, people. So, anybody know you've got a superpower already? Namaste.